YouTube, we got a new box. It's right here. So if you're brand new to Brian Phillips RC, welcome to Brian Phillips RC. We're gonna unbox this thing. We're gonna set it up start to finish. So if you're brand new to the hobby or you're returning to the hobby, we're gonna get you set, okay? All right, so you may have noticed some frenzy about this particular model. Oh yeah! We have a Cleetus McFarland version of the Carbon Cub S2 1.3, one of HobbyZone's most prolific and multiply offered liveries. I think this is like the 5th livery we've seen this plane in. They used to have one in red. I was thinking about that the other day.
Oh, really?
And, yep, that was before they came out with, I don't know if they called it the Carbon Cub at that time. They called it the Sport Cub. But it was this size class, and we really enjoyed that too. But there's been many, many improvements over the years, and we've gotten to mimic the beautiful full-scale counterpart, Cleetus McFarland. That's not his real name, but he is a YouTube superstar, obviously. And maybe someday he'll come land it on our full-scale strip.
That'd be cool.
That would be awesome. So anyway, we can only hope. But for now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna unbox this thing. This is from HobbyZone. It's a great beginner plane. And even though it's modeled after a very high performance plane, it's gonna give you good performance as a beginner. And it's gonna give you some flexibility to have some aids that are gonna make it easier to learn to fly. And we call those SAFE, which is Sensor Assisted Flight Envelope, which is driven through a system called AS3X, which is Artificial Stabilization 3-axis. And that is the basis for SAFE. And so we're just gonna show you what comes in the package. We're gonna show you start to finish. That's what we do on Brian Phillips RC. In fact, we've done this thousands of times, from the simple beginner planes, which would be similar to this, all the way up through pretty sophisticated, complicated planes, usually in ready to fly, which is everything you need in the box with the exception of a battery so that we can be legally compliant with remote ID. So you have to buy this separately, but when you click on the link in the video description below, you'll be prompted to purchase this, and it will supplement this. Otherwise, there is government agencies that will come and hunt you down if you sell model airplanes. So anyway, we're gonna show you start to finish how to do this so you can enjoy the hobby. This plane will be one that's easier to fly for beginners. Anybody who says it's easy to fly planes is lying to you. It is hard. Even the easiest plane is hard. Because once you're in the air, you are in charge. And that's one of the best parts of flying RC airplanes. It is challenging. It's also very rewarding, okay? So we're here to help you. We've helped thousands, if not tens of thousands of people to find their wings. And what we like to say, get out of the chair and into the air. So look at that phone book. Good Lord.
Holy cow. Hopefully it's in 27 languages.
I hope it is too. So real quick, we're gonna just point out the obvious, the elephant in the room. It came with double A's, which is really nice. And by the way, Cleetus McFarland has a YouTube channel. It's very cool. They do lots of fun things like racing and building gigantic hangars. Sounds like somebody else, except his is much, much bigger than mine in every way. I think his door is like twice as big as our building.
It's like our whole building.
But it is still cool, and we always wish well of those that are doing similar things. Just like Mike Patey, who just brought us Scrappy, which is on the ground over there, and the Draco. And so we're always super excited to see when general aviation full-scale aircraft get shrunk down for us to enjoy. But make no mistake, this plane is a beginner ready. It is geared to skill level 1. It is gonna be a great place to start. And one of my biggest complaints I've had in recent YouTube history was against Cleetus's videos involving the B-2 bomber. I did not like it because that is not a good place to start. And we felt firmly that that was trying to get people to buy. He wasn't doing that, but the marketing partners at the competitive brand were trying to talk people into buying something that should have never bought that plane. That was a terrible place to start. That was marketing to beginners, something that is an advanced, sophisticated, and make no mistake, Cleetus is a good pilot. He knows how to fly RC. You know, and I'm not saying that there aren't others, but I just felt like that was a really, it wasn't like they did it on purpose, but it definitely was not a good move. We want to market stuff as it should be, so that when you know this F7F is not designed for a beginner,
yep.
Or, you know, that 3D plane right there that just came out is not for a beginner, or the airliner is maybe not for a beginner. It would be for somebody, or that J3 Cub right there, or that SR71. We're gonna help you guys make the decision as to whether or not you can handle it. And if you are brand new to RC, we're gonna take you step by step. So that's one of the things we do on this channel. So first of all, this is the DXS, this is from Spectrum. So obviously as you work through the ranks, you're gonna learn what you need. And one of the things you need is you need a transmitter, okay? So let's pop this open. I believe this transmitter will also hook up to a USB-C cable, and you can use this to work with Real Flight, which is a simulator. So before you get your wings and you go up and fly your maiden flight with your RC airplane, you can actually hook this up to the computer and do some practice flying, which is really nice. I am an adult man. I work for a living. I have enough means to afford to crash a plane like this and not go totally broke. There are planes that if you bought and you crashed right away, you would quit. And that B2 is probably, I mean, not necessarily a price level, but the people that were getting that were watching Cleetus crash them with twin jet engines on there, were probably not going to have a good outcome. Okay, so we want you guys to have a great outcome. And so we're going to try to give you excellent advice. Okay, so first things first, make sure it turns on. Okay, so this is, you saw those little green lights. That's going to give us feedback for the actual battery pack that's in the aircraft. It's called a lithium polymer, or LiPo. And this is going to help us to control. This is actually a transceiver because we are transmitting and receiving. Now, you're going to eventually, if you follow Brian Phillips RC, end up in something like this, which would be like an NX10. It's kind of a middle of the road offering from Spectrum, or you could start with an NX7 or an NX8, but they make these up to NX20. And nowadays we have 20 channels on this, and we have 14 channels on the NX7, which is really nice. Forgive the lanyard. This one looks like a cow, in case you were wondering. You can get that black now, by the way.
Yep.
So this is going to give you the tool you need. The main tool you need is a transmitter and an airplane, and the airplane's going to have a receiver that's going to receive and also transmit back and forth, because we have telemetry involved now that's going to give us lots of different feedback, and most of which we're not going to have displayed on this because there's limited displayability. All we have is basically that feedback on the battery voltage, which, by the way, is the most critical in my opinion. So now that we're done talking about that for a minute, I'm going to shut this off. Now, this is designed as a mode 2 transmitter. So you have a throttle, and then you have a rudder, and then you have an elevator, and you have ailerons, which roll the aircraft. So they're on the wings, on the outboard portions of the wing. This rudder is going to yaw the aircraft, and then the throttle, of course, is going to make the prop spin faster. So we go into a little bit deeper dive on brand new offerings that are designed and geared toward beginners here on Brian Phillips RC. In fact, we've got hundreds of thousands of views on the Carbon Cub S2 1.3 from our last release, which was so old that we were using a DX18 as our transmitter of choice when we went ahead and did our programmable option, and we did it as a bind and fly. Now, when you get a ready to fly plane from HobbyZone or a Horizon Hobby product like eFlight, then this will also be bindable, or it could act as a bind and fly if you wish, okay? So if you have a programmable transmitter, or you progress into a programmable transmitter, then you can use that to help get the job done. Now, first things first, looks yellow on the top. This is the place where you can install optional vortex generators. It's a strip, and it just goes right there. You take off double-sided tape, and then you stick them down. We'll show that in mere moments. And you can see the beautiful stars and stripes, or stars and bars. In this case, that's Cleetus McFarland's finished air. Pretty cool. And this is going to receive a wing strut. And here is a cable that goes for the right aileron. So it's labeled, it's really easy. And then if you choose to install flaps, they're optional. What you'll eventually do is you have to cut out this wedge with an X-Acto knife or something similar, and then just a little bit of this foam here, and it will actually act as a pinch hinge with tape reinforcing it. And then this will move back and forth with a special apparatus that's gonna go to a singular servo that's installed actually right here. When the two wings go together, you'll be able to see. But that's a beautiful look. And of course, it's modeled after a real full-scale plane, which is pretty sweet. Now, is the Cleetus McFarland plane a big deal in terms of the actual performance of the airplane? It actually doesn't impact the performance of this plane at all. It is exactly the same underneath the livery, okay? So we're gonna go ahead and continue the unbox. So here on Brian Phillips RC, we like to show the full truth, nothing but the truth, so help us God. And it's very critical to us. We feel like it's important, both out of a respect for the hobby and a respect for the viewer, that we show all the details like the squishy tires,
nice.
Okay? Softer than rock hard is what we want. These are like a soft donut, okay? So if you had like, what is that people have? They like sit on a donut? Hemorrhoids.
Yes.
That's right. So these things will help absorb a little bit of the landing, but they're still gonna bounce, I promise you, on this model. Okay, so we'll just put these out as we go. And as we unbox, we're gonna also point out one thing. This is for optional floats, okay? Now the floats don't come in this particular kit. You have to order them separately, but just real quick, if you decide you wanna do that, this is what they would look like. There was a picture on the side I thought I saw. Where is the floats? Did they show it?
Well, there is a picture of just the floats on on the back, upside down.
There you go.
There's your float set.
So the floats, but they are different wires for different models. And so they include the wires because they will be specific to this particular model. Now, one set of these is going to be for the landing gear, and then the other two are gonna be for the float set, should you decide to purchase those. Now, anytime you're watching a Brian Phillips RC video, when and if you come to the conclusion that the plane, helicopter, VTOL, quad, whatever it is that we're reviewing is a good match for you, look no further than the video description below, and we will show you a link. Click the link. You'll go to a website like HobbyZone, or in this case, this would be Horizon Hobby, and you can actually purchase the plane that you see. But just make sure that you pick the right size class, because many times we show results that will include other planes similar to this plane, in case it's out of stock, okay? So check the size. So this is a 1.3 meter. So that speaks to the width of the wingspan. And then it is a Carbon Cub S2. That speaks to the version, okay? But it's because it's the Cleetus McFarland special edition, you've got this livery. Now they also had one that was based on Mike Patey's wife. What's her name?
Chandra.
Yep, Chandra Patey. And she had a Carbon Cub that Mike Patey bought her as a birthday present, if I remember right. This is a long time ago, so I'm not remembering all the details right. And that was super cool. I mean, if you want to give me that birthday present,
I was going to say, I need higher expectations for my birthday present.
Exactly. That's right. Well, they put Chandra here on the side, and that was kind of an interesting detail.
I think that was a different color too, wasn't it? Was it still yellow?
No, it was still yellow, but I think it was just like a silhouette on there. It was pretty simple, but it was kind of geared to like trying to get girls interested in aviation, because RC aviation is largely dominated by men, and that's fine. I mean, we have girls and we have boys, and I want my girls to fly, but my boys are way more interested in it. I'm not gonna force the issue, but at the same time, I do want my girls to fly.
Yeah.
Okay, so this has a special type of flight controller in it, and this is actually the receiver right here. It's a small satellite receiver, and then that connects to your transmitter, and then the flight controller does all the things that need to be done, and everything is labeled, and we'll show you exactly how to do it. There's also a light on the windscreen, or in this case, the windshield, that will show the status of the model. So if you're in safe, AS3X, or if you're in the intermediate setting. So they actually have beginner, which would be like safe, and then they have an intermediate, which is actually sort of like a reduced level. It will just, it's not gonna auto level, but it'll limit your bank angles. We call that, what do we call that anyway?
Is that like the flight envelope?
Yeah, it's flight envelope. But then also we have AS3X, which would be like expert or advanced. And that's gonna let you do loops and rolls and all that stuff. And it won't automatically level the aircraft when you let go of the sticks, but it will. There is a panic mode on this. And that panic mode is going to be activated by pressing this bind button, okay? So each of these switches, incidentally, are labeled. This is A, this is a B switch, it's a 3-position switch. This is the D switch, it's a 3-position switch. F is 2, and then H is 2 as well. So we use this for throttle hold typically, and when that's pulled back toward us, the throttle doesn't work, it's just locked in the down position. Spectrum operates like this is 0, that's -100, and that's +100, which differentiates itself from Futaba because it does a different setup, okay? So when you're looking at the range up or down in spectrum, it's always the center is 0, up is +100, and then you can drive them to 150%. So it'd be 150 and then down to -100 or -150, okay? And that's true for all channels. That includes 3-way switches or 2-way switches. But remember, when you have a 3-way switch, the assignment is always gonna be up is gonna be +100, the center is gonna be 0, and the bottom is gonna be -100. That comes in handy when you start doing programming on these transmitters. But unlike our competitors on YouTube, we show start to finish, every tedious step, which is why our videos are so long. So if you're getting some value out of this, smash a like button right now so that you don't forget to, because you're gonna get into this and you're gonna forget if you're like a normal person, okay? Thanks for doing that. All right, so we're just pulling this out. And by the way, if we've helped you along in your RC career or your return to the RC career, let us know in the comments below so you can help encourage others that are brand new to the hobby, that are just learning how to do this stuff, okay? Soft tire, spring hinge, and then of course the control arm is built into this plastic. And you might be thinking to yourself, but how do these foam planes, this does seem like it's redone a little bit. It's not just the same as the last one.
It's actually 5 years.
No, they've redone some of this stuff. It does not look the same. So that's pretty cool. And I think it's in a good way. It's very light. It's also strong. It's not like totally resilient. And this is, even though it's a pinch hinge where they take hinge and they just press it down, it's also reinforced with a pretty thick decal on both sides. So it starts here and it comes down on top of this gray jigged paint. And then fully painted body is another thing that people really get bent out of shape about. In RC, I personally could care less. That plane's not fully painted and I don't care, it's white. Over here, the silver one is fully painted. The yellow one is fully painted. That white one over there is fully painted.
The airliner is fully painted.
The Airbus,
yeah.
Point at the Airbus. Yep. That one's fully painted, okay? So there's lots of fully painted models, but it just seems to be something that's kind of a sticking point for people that are really picky in the hobby, and that's okay. You can be as picky as you want in this hobby because it's a hobby, and that's one of the beautiful things about it. Now, don't go talk to the government about your hobby because they'll tell you it's like, you know, some CIA secret or something.
Right.
But at the end of the day, we're gonna help teach you what you need to know to keep yourself out of the pokey.
At least in terms of RC.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so we have the other wing. You can see it's nice and strong, okay? And beautiful stars and bars. Thanks, Cleetus, for that look. We'll just put that right there. And then this. And by the way, anytime we see a fellow YouTuber finding success, Cleetus is a much, much bigger YouTuber. Much bigger. Yeah. And we always wish them the best. But at the end of the day, what we do is we start to finish. Oh, look at this. Another prop.
A spare prop.
That's not a spare prop. That's a different prop.
Oh.
If I remember right, this is a different pitch if it's like before. And if you look at that, it sure looks the same, doesn't it?
It looks...
Maybe it is just a spare prop now. They used to include a second prop, and the second prop was used for floats or something like that because it had a more aggressive pitch or a less aggressive pitch. But in case you're wondering, props are measured by this dimension, and then the pitch dimension. So of course this one happens to not be marked. Oh yeah, it is. This is a 9x6, okay? So 9x6, so this is 9 inches wide, and it's got a 6-inch pitch. Yes, you measure pitch in inches or millimeters, okay? So like this is, I don't know, that one's not marked because it's a more detailed blade. But we just did that one with 16.6 on that extra, okay? That one there. So when you look at that, it's gonna help you determine, you know, first of all, if you crash, if you wanna get a different prop, but also keep in mind, some of these props have different mounting techniques that actually translate the torque into the blade. Now also this is very wiggly and just jives all over the place, okay? Also means that if you put a super high power system in there, it's gonna make this thing very noisy and boisterous, okay? Whereas most more high efficiency props are gonna be very firm and very sharp to the point of be careful, you can get cut, okay? Also we have a wing spar here, so this is carbon fiber. I was saying this earlier and I kind of cut myself off. These planes are made of foam, but that doesn't mean that they're all foam. They are made of foam, plastic, carbon fiber in this case, and then of course other decorative details, some of which are load bearing and some of which are just for decoration, okay? Or they're functional, okay? So we'll just keep going through this Unbox build radio setup. Now you're obviously not gonna be putting this back in the box without a full disassembly. And so when you have somebody that does a very huge YouTube channel and they're building giant hangars and doing awesome things, they don't have time to build planes for you, but we do on Brian Phillips RC because that is what we do, unpainted, painted. That's weird.
Is it supposed to be that way?
Yeah, it is. That's the way it is. I just realized it. It is unpainted there. My apologies. I thought it was fully painted. So this is raw foam. So some people get bent out of shape about that. I could care less. Like I said earlier, I don't have a problem with it, but some people will. And then this has what looks like rivet details. I can't tell if that's supposed to be rivet details or if it's just the mold release. That's interesting.
Looks kind of different, yeah.
Yeah, I've not noticed that before. But it's pretty cool. It looks like it's got his real end number on there. So very neat. So excited to put this together. This is the type of plane that we live for on Brian Phillips RC because we want to help get you guys flying. And the best way to do that is to basically follow along on an easy plane, okay? When I say easy, I mean easy as in easy compared to other planes. Not easy like flying an airplane is easy. Flying an airplane is pretty hard, okay? So if you've tried and you felt like you didn't find success right away, believe me, you're like everybody else, okay? It is not as easy as we make it look on a routine basis, but we try to show it step by step so that you can be positioned where you can actually start learning to do this stuff, okay? So this, of course, is part of the wing joiner mechanism. And then this is a bag of goodies, lots of little pieces. We've got some wheel fairings right here. And we've got some things that mount. Why is there like grass all over this stuff?
I don't know.
I don't get it. It doesn't make sense. Some screws, a little bit of Velcro. A bind plug shouldn't need that. This is what you're gonna use if you add flaps. So you can make sure both sides are going to be evenly deployed. But then this, where is the pin? Where are the pins on those? That's so weird. Oh, it's on the wing. It's on this thing, look.
Oh, it clips onto
Yeah,
that
it clips
little...
onto that little apparatus, okay? So that way you can actually actuate with one servo, which would get glued in here. And we're not gonna do that in this particular video because flaps are a little bit more of a sophisticated thing that you can do without, but I love flying with flaps. And full disclosure, we do it as often as possible. I do a lot of flying and I do a lot of flying with flaps. Don't underrate control surfaces that add to your flight envelope. Flight envelope meaning how fast you can fly, how slow you can fly, the angles you can fly at, that sort of thing, okay? If you can make the flight envelope of an aircraft bigger, then you can generally make a more desirable flight experience, but it's more complicated to deploy flaps, knowing when to put them out, when to pull them in, We go through that because as I fly, I talk about the condition of these flight control surfaces, just so you guys can copy along if you want to try it. I highly suggest that as soon as you can figure out how to use flaps, that you start using them. Flaps are awesome. Flaps open doors. Okay, so that's all the pieces. There's nothing on the bottom. So we can just lay this kind of out of the way for now. Now the Power Bundle pack, we're gonna open this now so we can show how this works, and then we're gonna go into the build, okay? So this is a Powerstage battery and charger bundle. So it comes with a 3S 2200 milliamp hour Smart Gen 2 pack, and it's a lithium polymer with a 30C rating with an IC3 end. This is the part number of just the battery plus this little charger. It's called Spectrum Mini Smart S120 charger, okay? So that's gonna be designed as an entry level, a very entry level charger, okay? So my suggestion is, frankly, if you know you're gonna be addicted, and if you get started in this hobby and you make it through one model with this charger, I'd be surprised because you're probably gonna wanna get a better charger, okay? This will get you going though. And so part of the reason that we're showing this is because if you want to lower the barrier for entry for folks that wanna start flying, the best thing you can do, this requires a Spectrum Smart Charger, is to make it easy for them to order all the components that they need. Now, what has the FAA done? They've made it hard for people to do that.
Yeah.
And so that's really ridiculous. And so we try not to talk about it because it just makes us angry, okay? So this is an IC3 connector. This is a data line. This is the minus lead and this is the positive lead. And you're probably thinking to yourself, I don't know what a balance lead is. What are you talking about? There's no balance lead. Well, because you're brand new to the hobby, a balance lead would be available on a Gen 1 pack, not a Gen 2 pack. So here's an example. I'm gonna try to find one that's 3S. So this one's 3S. This is a Gen 1. You'll notice the orange is a little bit different color and it's got this thing here. That is a balance lead. So when you have 3 cells that are in series, we call that a 3S pack. And you're like, well, why not 3C? Because there's 3 cells. No, it's 3 in series. Because there was also packs that were 3 in parallel, and parallel would be a different configuration. So when you talk about series, you've got red and you've got black and black. Why are they all black? Well, that's because this is one cell, then this is the next cell, these 2 wires, okay? And then this is one more cell. So you could test the voltage of this cell, or this cell, or this cell. And we usually do that with the aid of a test tool like the XBC checker. This can also be used to check servos, but look, I plugged in the smart lead and it's telling us the voltage of each cell. Or if you don't have a smart battery, then you can just use this right there and it's gonna tell you what the voltage is for each of those cells, okay? So it's important to understand that that exists in the technology, but you don't have to understand how to work with it beyond the fact that it exists, okay? Now, because this is a smart battery, you are dependent on using that extra pin there to carry the data settings, okay? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna set up the charger right now, right here, so we can charge the battery. Full disclosure, this charger is called the S120. It is very slow. And so it compared to some of the other chargers that we use on a routine basis. If and when you're ready to purchase this, we will be able to help you. You can head over to brianphillipsrc.com or bprc.me if you don't want to type out the name all the way. And we'll help you with chargers and stuff like that too.
And we always link to our favorite chargers that we use most often.
That's right, which would be the S2200 is what we use almost all the time. That's 200 watts, and that's 2 different batteries can be charging at the same time.
Yep, or the S155 if you're looking for a
And this is the S120, which stands for 1 cell or 1 battery at 20 watts.
Yep.
But it's also going to be limited to power input from a USB-C cable. So you're not going to be able to get that much power into this very quickly. And you're also going to be limited to only 4 excuse me, 3S. So 1, 2, 3, 4. That means that one of them is a ground, and then there's 3 cells, okay? And then this is your discharge lead with a data line on it. Okay? So that's what comes in this little package. This Powerstage packs are nice because they come with the stuff you need. If you're buying this for your kid, you don't want to learn all this crap, that's fine. Just buy this thing and you'll have at least the bare minimums. Now, if you're buying it for yourself and you know you're going to be in it and you're returning to the hobby, don't bother with something like a Powerstage. Just get the battery you need. There is a bit of savings if you look at them compared to the individual components, but it's not a big savings. It's enough that it's basically a convenience item, okay? So what I suggest instead is to buy something like this, which is a smart charger. It's going to do 2 batteries at the same time, and it comes with an IC5 and an IC3. This is what we need. And then it does 2 through 6 cell. This S155 is very good though. It's considerably cheaper. It's only 55 watts, and this is going to be limited to then 4S instead of just 3S. But it's important that you understand the difference. If you're flying this plane on 3S, which is what it's designed to fly on, and you want to go to a 4S plane, you'll have to buy a new charger. So if you know you're only going to fly this for a little bit, I can tell you that most of the planes are going to be 4S or 6S right now. There's a few that are 3S, and there's some small models that are going to be in the smaller sizes, but just take my word for it. Trying to design or maintain all of your battery needs on your first charger is probably a fool's errand, okay? So you see the different light conditions. There's an instruction manual in that will tell you all the different connection or all the different color conditions and what the flashings mean. But I can tell you this, plug in your battery and it's going to start charging. Okay. So now real quick, while that's started, I'm going to bring the XBC over. We'll show you what it says for its charge levels. This is not included with the kit. It's something you'll want to have in your tool bag eventually. Of course, we link to this in the smart stuff. Okay, so plug it in, and it's going to tell you we're at 11.42 nominal volts. That means all the cells together. And then here in a moment, it's going to populate the screen with data. But sometimes it takes a second for that to happen. If not, whoop, did it just do it? You can also do servo tests, which is really nice, and you can plug those in right here, okay? And I'm going to just hit back. And then sometimes with, yep, there it just populated the screen with the smart data, so you can see each of the cells. 3.8 is a storage charge level, but typically Gen 2 packs are actually stored at 3.9 volts. Okay, so that says it's 33% charge. But remember, on a lithium polymer, we operate from 4.2 volts to about 3.3 or 3.2 volts, or Brian Phillips RC about 2. That's a joke.
Sort of.
4.2 to about 3.2. Mm-hmm. And then it falls off like a rock. So if you chart the output, you'll be charting full charge, full charge, full charge, full charge, dead. That's the way it does it. And that's true for a lot of lithium-based batteries. It's high energy output, but it operates in a specific range where the chemistry is nice and solid, and then the chemistry falls off here, or it gets unstable chemically over 4.2 volts per cell. Okay, so now also on the smart checker, you can click and you can go to this screen, or you can press and hold and go to the smart settings. Okay. This will automatically discharge the pack at 72 hours. And you're probably thinking, I don't want that thing to auto discharge. Well, if you don't, then just turn it off and then it won't. I wouldn't suggest that though, because it's one of the biggest safety features. So at minimum, put it at 240 hours. That'd be about 10 days. And what's gonna happen is it's gonna discharge. So we're at 3.8 volts, this will work. I'm gonna show you how it would work on a more sophisticated charger. And this is what's so nice about a smart charger. You plug it in, knows what's in, and it started charging. Okay, very nice. And it's gonna charge at 1C by default. So this will go to 1C is 2.2 amps because it is 2200 milliamp hours, okay? So that's going to tell you how many milliamps went into the charge. And then you can press the down arrow and see the balance. You can see we're up a little bit on the voltages already. And you can see we're at 38% up from 33. Also, you can see the internal resistance, which is sort of not going to be a big issue for most of us, unless you're really getting super scientific on us, okay? Now, you can also stop this charge, or you can just unplug, and you can also change the current to a higher charge rate. Yeah, 11, look at the front. It says max charge rate 11 amps. So it is obviously smart because we can go faster than 11, but watch how fast this goes. Watch that number. You saw how it was counting before. This is going to get up to 11 amps. Look at how fast it's going.
It's crazy.
This is going to be charged in like a minute and a half. Also, you can hear the Facebook data center starting, aka the cooling fans. And my favorite feature of this charger, power switch.
Yep.
Okay, one thing too, when you unplug this, turn on your charger, let it come up to speed, and once it's up to speed, go ahead and plug it in. Now, we set this to 11 amp charge rate, right? So watch what happens when we plug this in. In fact, I'll plug it into a different port just so you can see. So channel 2, watch this. Initiating smart charge. And by the way, all the features you're seeing, this will do it too. It's just going to do it at 55 watts instead of 200 watts. Watch that. Look, it's coming up. And there it's going to go really fast, and it's going to go way up really quick. There it is. Facebook Data Center's back. Now, one drawback is that this is going to not charge at 11 amps here, so it's going to go to its max charge rate. This is going to be maxed out, and it's going to be basically no more than, if you look right here, 0.1 to 2 amps. The input voltage is going to dictate how much current is available. Now, why do we spend so much time talking about batteries on a first time playing? Because really, for a lot of people that get into this hobby, they come from yesteryear where you had a small little gas engine, or you didn't have much going on with batteries. You had like a few cells in series or in parallel. You plugged them into the provided charger with the AC wall outlet and you were done. Nowadays, you have to know what the heck is going on with batteries because it's the #1 most dangerous thing, and the second most dangerous thing is this prop that spins. I don't want you to get hurt. I want you to understand how the technology works so that when you find a battery that looks like a cylinder instead of a square, like this one is an off-brand, and it's got pretty nice tight edges, okay? I had an example of one that was rounding out pretty good because I took it out back and shot it the other day, because it's the best way to get rid of them safely. But we're also in the country, we can get away with that stuff. That being said, lithium polymer batteries that are smart will auto discharge. It's gonna keep the chemistry in a viable range. And it's also going to help keep you more protected because it has an active battery management system. The battery management system is going to be handled for you. And I have an example of one that I ripped out of, not that particular battery, but another one like it. This happens to be a 3S battery that I killed in a crash. You'll notice this, and then there's this little smart circuit that actually does all that stuff. And then the data is transmitted through this smart lead, or the data lead. And then this one just happens to be a Gen 1 because it has the balance lead as well. So in case you guys were wondering if that was real, it is real, and it is really inside. Each and every one of these smart batteries has a little circuit that's in here. So if it ever gets warm to the touch, after approximately the period of time that you expected for auto discharge, don't be surprised. This happens to be a 7,000 milliamp hour 6S, and it's a little bit older, so it's getting a little bit puffed, okay? But that's just one thing to keep in mind. When you have brand new batteries, they're gonna be pretty nice and sharp on the edges, and when they start to get puffy and rounded, that would be a good time to consider getting rid of them and just upgrading to a new battery. My experience in real life has been about 3 to 4 years on a lithium polymer soft pack. And these are hard packs in case you guys get like boats and cars, you'll have like a plastic package. They handle a little bit more beating. This happens to be a 100C pack. It's a very expensive pack, and that's 5,000 milliamp hour 2S. but it has a larger connector on it because that is designed to work with a very fast boat, and it uses 2 batteries simultaneously. Okay, very good. That's the boring stuff, and we know that you probably don't care to hear about batteries, but I want to get you at least enough to wet your whistle so you understand what's going on when you see things come out. And there's a lot more of that where that came from on Brian Phillips RC. This is what we do. We go through the full truth, nothing but the truth, so help us God, so that you can make viable decisions about your RC future, okay? All right, so let's build this plane. There's a couple different ways you could build this. You can read the instruction manual, which is actually a great idea, or you could not. We're gonna show you what this instruction manual includes. And by the way, if you're watching this video and you say, hey, Brian, I want to read through the whole manual. I don't just want to like see the stuff you're talking about. I want to follow along. Click the link like you're going to buy it, and then scroll down. You can actually find the specs, and you can find manuals and in other languages. Incidentally, this is the smart charger information here. This is kind of like a quick start guide. Okay. Now, also, there are 2 optional features on this plane that I just want to mention real quick. One is a GPS option, okay? That GPS option would be installed inside the plane, and that GPS option is an option that I don't believe in. I don't think it's a good option for a beginner. It severely complicates the use of this aircraft. Brian Phillips RC does not endorse using it. If you want to use it, go for it, but just bring a fresh pair of underwear, because when the first time this plane janks because it gets to the edge of your whatever bubble you're allowed to fly in, you will be dying scared, because it scares the crap out of me every time I see it happen. This is where the landing aid sensor would go. This is a blank filler, so it just pops in there. Mine just needs to be snapped in there better. I don't know why that's not snapped in like that. There it goes. Okay, so that's supposed to be right here, and it just snaps in. But to be honest with you, it's gonna pop out, almost guaranteed. And then this is where you load the battery, okay? So very easy to plug in, and they also have given us a bind plug down here, should we need to use that. Now, depending on when and how you build this plane, there's also a bind button right here. If I remember it. You guys hear that? Mm-hmm. So if you were to press that, then it will allow you to bind your transmitter. Now, binding on most transmitters is going to look a lot like this. This is already bound, so I don't want to screw it up. But you would press and hold this bind button while powering to force this into bind mode, okay? And then you would press this button and it starts flashing, and then you would just go ahead and do that, okay? Usually you start with the plane, then you go to the transmitter when you're trying to bind. But every other circumstance, you turn on the transmitter first, you make sure your throttle sticks down and your throttle hold is on. Then when this is on, you go ahead and power up your plane. Powering up your plane consists of plugging in the battery. It's pretty simple. If you do that, you will be largely safe from being cut by props. But just keep in mind, 2 safety issues: batteries and props, okay? Oh, also, this model comes with a Real Flight Trainer edition. And so now this includes this unlockable rewards content. So what you want to do is fly it, and then after you do a bunch of stuff, there's a bunch of rules. Now, I'm going to cover up my code. We already have this, but I'm not sure if we're supposed to give that out. And there's some instructions on the back of there. You can read all that information if you want for yourself. You have to install Steam, and Steam is an online game management system that you use, and it allows you to play video games. If you play video games, Steam is like what everything is on. Okay? Yeah. My kids play video games. I used to play a lot of video games. Now I just basically play flight simulators that my kids are playing at the time. Yeah. So it's super fun. And by the way, one of the best parts of flying is it's not easy. And it sounds so counterintuitive, but the truth is there's so many things in our life that are easy, instant gratification, like pulling out your phone and playing a video game, okay? You crash, you hit reset, you're ready to go, okay? It's fun, but at the end of the day, I was saying this earlier, I'm a grown man, I have a day job, I work my butt off, I provide for my family. When I do this, I want it to be real, okay? Now, if you need to have some help with the simulator, there is nothing to be ashamed of here. And by the way, I just wanted to point out one thing that's nice about this charger, okay? Look at this. Boom. Now, we might have to be a little bit careful how we do this. I'm gonna turn this on, and I'm just gonna let you guys listen to the Windows noise. We're just gonna carefully, like point the camera that way and just look out and back in slowly, camera crew. Don't do anything crazy.
It's a mess in
here.
There's
lots of hidden secret objects in here. Just listen to the Windows noise. I'm gonna plug this in. Boop. Yep, there it is, setting up a device. Spectrum DXS. And I just unplugged it. Okay. You guys heard the Windows noises, so that's all you need to know. So what's gonna happen is this will also allow you to act as an input for your simulator, which I'm telling you is a big deal, okay? Now, if you get really hard on about playing the simulator and you wanna play it more, you can also buy a dongle and you can bind this transmitter or a programmable transmitter to the dongle and it's just wireless. That's pretty sweet. So.
But if you, like when you started flying RC, you had experience as a kid, you had interest in airplanes, you kind of knew the sticks and you kind of knew what to expect. If you're new and you've never really done anything like this before, the
simulator will help.
Will help you at least get your sticks figured out.
It's the direction that the muscle memory that comes from practice is expensive and hard fought, but safe helps a lot with that, okay? It does not make it automatic.
Nope.
But when you let go of the sticks, the plane levels. People assume that's what happens on models when they don't fly models. Real life. So safe sensor-assisted flight envelope is going to basically, when you're flying along, when you let go of the sticks, it's gonna right the aircraft, both in terms of the pitch and the roll, okay? So it's gonna snap level, okay? All right, so continuing along, and if it seems like we're jumping around a little bit, I apologize. This is kind of part of the way this procedure works because there's a lot to deal with and it does take a little bit of time to go through it. If you go through the build, this manual is a monster, but I just want to talk about this. French, German, English. Okay, so English stops here on page, it looks like 37 maybe? Or is that EU stuff? Yeah, that's all good. So basically the first few pages is what you want to know. And it's going to show you the build instructions, okay? Vortex generators, it shows like an overhead view, kind of goes over the things we talked about, okay? It talks about the completion guide, it's going to talk about all the different things you need if you just bought the airplane, okay? It also talks about the flight controller that's in here, the receiver that's used, and so on and so forth. Now, one thing that about this plane that really kind of annoys me, I gotta say, and I'm just gonna say this right now, this model really should just have an AR630 in it, okay? If you watch our channel, this is a very basic receiver. We use them in tons of different aircraft across the board. This thing is a monstrosity. It is difficult to work with compared to this. But that's because they have additional features that are geared toward a beginner.
Right.
My issue with that is, and this is some full truth from Brian Phillips RC, I feel like a lot of the features are just really clunky and confusing. This is simple and it works really good, okay? It's also not that expensive. So if you ever get a plane like this and you get it as like a plug and fly, which I don't even know that they offer it as a plug and fly.
I don't believe they do.
You could put this in there and set it up. We have millions of videos, it seems like. It's not actually millions, but it's probably thousands.
Hundreds, at least.
And we can show you how to set up a plug and fly plane or plug and play, depending on the manufacturer. And we'll show you how to set it up so that everything works. We do it all the time. We will help you from start to finish. I'm talking from an unopened box to a flying plane. But usually we show the flight in a separate video, in case you're wondering. All right, this one might be a little bit different. All right, so building this plane should be pretty straightforward. There's a lot of pieces, admittedly, and that's because we have to put on these vortex generators. That takes up about half the pile, okay? So to put these vortex generators on, you've got some double-sided tape. Looks like they come with 4 of those. And then they have the actual vortex generators. Okay. I would suggest laying them out like this so that you get them lined up the way you want. And if I remember right, there's not really like a right or wrong way. Nope.
That one's backwards.
That one's the correct direction. They should point forward. That's the way they should point, okay? But you see how they're cut? This is cut with single, 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 single. So it looks like they're gonna be single, 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 single. Nope, not single. This is single, single, that's not single. See, this is a pair, and this is single. So it looks like they're all the same from right to left. So I'm just trying to make sure, no matter what we do, we're gonna end up with a double
in the middle,
that, right?
Yes.
So I'm just trying to double check there's not a way we can do this, because yeah, we can't flip it over or anything.
Nope, I think they're all the same.
So yeah, so we just wanna make sure they're the same, so we have symmetry, because it's just gonna look better. So yeah, so that's the way we're gonna do it. Now also remember that one wing is left and one wing is right, so you may want to do it slightly different for the left and for the right so that they mimic each other closely. But I don't think we're going to have a choice.
Nope, I don't think so.
So in that case, this should be pretty straightforward. So there's two sides to this. Just peel off the backing, stick it down into the opening, press it down. It might be easier to get that tail before you press it down and then hold it. You can press this down, then peel off your backing. And we're just gonna do this whole process for you right now, as we have done thousands of times. Now, quick RC break for BrianPhillipsRC.com. If you guys are considering an airplane and you're not sure this is the one for you and you wanna learn about a competitive product, check out BrianPhillipsRC.com and we will show you all the competitive offerings. All you have to do is sort by type or style of airplane. So like this plane would be considered a general aviation. This would be considered a beginner plane. This would be considered a trainer. And we have lots of different categories to help you find exactly what you're looking for. And that looks really nice. It's a nice match. Just make sure when you do this, you do it carefully, because you pretty much get one shot at it. And there's no reason not to have vortex generators. It's not like a leading edge slat where you might actually have some performance changes that are bad as well. Vortex generators are pretty much always good on planes, okay? I can't think of a condition where this is gonna be bad. So do the vortex generators for sure. I don't believe there's an up or a down on these. They're just where they are.
Yeah,
okay?
It doesn't seem like it.
Now, my only concern the way I did that one is I could have gapped this a little bit, because then I'd reach a little bit closer to each edge like this, okay? And pretty easy to peel and stick, okay? So we're just gonna force this into the corner and then walk it down and then go all the way to the end and just smack it in there, okay? Same thing here, I'm gonna go all the way to the corner, smack it in there, and then just let it be, okay? So as you can see, I'm just gonna press this down, and that's gonna get our wing partially assembled. Now, the next thing you can do with this wing that's really easy is you can take this is the wing joiner, slide it in, and then you can slide it in like this. Now, this might be a component that you'll occasionally take off if you have a really small automobile for transporting your aircraft. So you can see how that's gonna later be used, because there's a pocket here for a servo. These are covered up nicely. You can barely even see the servo, which is pretty sweet. And by the way, if you ever need to make an adjustment, you can pop these off by sliding this back, and then you can pull this off just like that, okay? And if you go to the inside hole from the outside hole, so right now we're in the outside hole on that clevis, then you'll actually create more movement on this, which will create a little bit bigger impact when you give roll authority from a stick input, okay? So now this needs to go here. It's just gonna line up through these plastic receivers. You see these plastic receivers here? So there you go. So now you've got a wing that's assembled. This can be taken apart as well. It doesn't have to stay fully assembled, so if you need to take apart the plane, that's something you can do. Now also, while we've got this here, we can look at these wing struts. Usually these are labeled, not always, but it looks like this one is probably going to be, you can kind of tell it's kind of tapered into that point. So that looks like it's going to go there to me, because that would go downward. Okay. So I'm assuming that's correct. I don't know for a fact, actually, but I've not seen any markings on there. They give me 100% certitude. That says R. So that, since I'm upside down, this would be the right side.
Yes.
So I did have it right. So then we just need to figure out which screws to use to actually put those in. And in order to do that, I've got these screwdrivers here. Now, if you ever need screwdrivers or glue or something like that, go to brianphillipsrc.com and check out our supplies tab so you can find something that we recommend. It's very easy to do that. Then you won't be searching all over the interwebs for these things. Okay? Camera crew, what does the instruction manual say?
It says to not do that step first. You are going to use, it does say that they're marked right and left, and it's a 2.5 by 10, and it's going to be a Phillips screw.
What
there should
bag
be
is it
6
in?
of them. It does not say.
Okay, so bring it over here.
All hardware for wing installation is in bag C.
Bag C. Okay, guys, bag C. Bag C is right here, okay? So I'm going to dump out bag C over here. And you're saying what now? Let me see the picture.
2.5 by 10.
So 2.5 by 10. So which one's 2.5 by 10? That's 10 millimeters long and 2.5 wide, evidently. So I'm going to go with that. So we'll slide this through.
And you should use a Phillips number 1 or whatever.
Yeah, well,
metric
mine
thing
are stupidly numbered in millimeters, because we all know that Phillips is obviously a metric thing. That's a joke, folks. All right, so 1 and then 2. Man, that's really wider than this thing is designed for. But whatever. So now you notice there's a little bit of a slot here. That slot is going to give you the ability to make adjustments to exactly where that's positioned. So I'm going to lean toward loose so that we can get things adjusted right, but not so loose that it just rips out, okay? So now I need to move this wing down. Why'd you step back? Okay, then right here, we'll go ahead and do this again. Same thing here. You see what we've done for the angle. Now you guys might be thinking, why didn't you read the instructions, Brian? Well, because I don't care. And I'm a man. I don't read instructions. My wife does.
I'll just wait for me to read them.
That's right. Leave it in the comments below if you do the same. I'm sure you do. I already know it. Whatever, I read instructions all the time. Just not on this crap.
No.
Okay? Only because I built 400 of these planes. Now, this plane is going to eventually need that wing. But until we get ready for it, I'm going to lay it out of the way.
Okay.
And then I'm going to get that tail section from the camera crew. He's going to hand it to me. And then I'm going to put this is a horizontal stabilizer. I'm going to figure a way to put that on. Now this obviously goes with the landing gear. So I'll just get that out of the way for now. And I almost lost one of these little things. Oh. So I'll just put that right there. Okay, so this goes down. How do I know that goes down?
Because the control arm is there and the hinges are down.
Reinforced plastic portion there. It's going to go like that.
Okay.
Then this thing is going to go down. Now there is a screw that goes through here. And it goes through that thingy. Okay. So we're eventually going to get this plugged in to the holes. And so I'm just going to slide that all together kind of in one big conglomeration. And then this little knob is going to go in there. Okay. Pretty simple. Then I'm going to flip the plane over like that. And you see what's going on there. We're running into all this stuff, and that's okay because we're not sure exactly where that needs to plug in just quite yet. Okay. Now I'm going to press all this together, and you can tell how that needs to have a screw to hold it back in there. Right there. Okay. So I wonder what screw I would need for that. So this is all for the wing in the C bag.
In the C bag, yes.
Okay.
Landing gear tail surfaces are in bag B.
Bag B, guys, look at bag B. So we have super small. I'm pretty sure that the super small is what we need. And you'll notice there's extras, it looks like, of each type. That's something we used to see all the time. Okay, so that's clearly the correct one. And I would have given you a better view, but I needed to line it up with my index finger. Mm-hmm. So just torquing that down a little bit, and you'll notice what's gonna happen is eventually it will come in tight, and that means you did it too much. What I would do is go tight to where it's tight, and that's obviously not acceptable. So then back it off just 1/8 of a turn, or maybe just a wee bit more. And then that'll open it up so it's got nice free range of motion. Now I need to take 2 of these bigger screws. I'm gonna drop them right in here. Boom and boom. And come in here and follow those into the holes. And you can see I'm kind of pressing this with my middle finger of my left hand so that I can get this started. And usually a good rule of thumb is if you are thinking, you know, you've got it, and you're not sure if you've got enough bite from the screw being tightened, you can look at the points where they touch and watch for pucker. In this case, we have plastic butting into other plastics, so you don't have to even do that. Now look, my B bag has an extra screw and an extra screw. Now we can take and put that somewhere for safekeeping in case we would lose a screw, okay? Pretty cool, simple. All right, so now let's build some landing gear. Camera crew, would you mind handing me my gear? Just throw that over here, and then we'll go with the wheels next. Okay, so the wheels are gonna be pretty simple to build, and then they'll be slid into the bottom of the fuselage. Okay. So I can tell which one's gonna be landing gear by guesswork, except I can't. How do I know what works? These are for floats. Why do I know? Because these will line up with these, okay? So it says L for left. So this is the left side. And that's gonna go in like that and then snap down. This is the first thing that's gonna break on your plane, full disclosure. So you might as well plan on it, okay? There you go.
Okay.
So when that breaks, you can say, hey, Brian told me that was gonna happen. We tell you the full truth, nothing but the truth, so help us God. And the reason we do that is because we want an audience of people that knows they can trust us to tell the truth. Because the next time you're buying a plane, it might be a $700 one or more. Okay, now these we're not gonna need, so I can slide them back into the bag, but don't get rid of them just quite yet. We're gonna put them over here with their extra goodies, okay? Now we need to get ready to actually build the landing gear. So these need to slide on, and I don't believe there is a right way, but once this goes on, there's either a collar inboard, but there is a flat on this. Can you see it? It's machined into it.
Oh, yes.
See the flat?
Yep.
So that's where you're gonna put your set screw from your collar. So I'm just gonna go with, this is where they are. Okay, so there's one of them. And it looks like we're probably gonna have an interior one as well. So camera crew, you wanna show the people real quick? Yeah, there is an interior inboard one as well. Okay, so that's great. They did not have that before. That's pretty sweet. Okay, so it's the one that's shorter and there's not a screw. So you can either line it up like this if you want to work hard like me, or you can just slide it on. And that's going to help prevent it from going up that edge, okay? Doesn't look like it's a very good design because it goes up the edge still, okay? So we'll just do that, and then I'll take one of these little set screws here, and again, we're going to be left with one extra of this particular component, so I can put that in there for safekeeping. Then I'm going to take this screw with that machine threading, and I'm going to start it in here. Now you could put some Loctite on there if you wanted, but just don't use Loctite whenever it's going to come into contact with foam. And yes, you do get an extra one. That's pretty sweet. I'm very happy about that.
Oh, and an extra collar at the inside?
They give you extras of all that stuff. That is nice. Very unusual.
Yeah.
We used to get extra stuff like this all the time from pretty much every manufacturer. Nowadays, it is a very, very rare thing to get extras of anything. Those additional components are going to be used for some other critical item, so we'll come back to those here in mere moments. But for now, oh geez, did they give us two? Yes, they gave us another one of those. That's bizarre.
No, you need that one for the other side.
Look. Oh, I need it for the other side? Mm-hmm. I see what you're saying. Okay. So we'll put that on. Good call, camera crew. In case you guys hadn't connected the dots, the camera crew is my wife. We've been married for more than a couple of years.
And I've done this once or twice.
She knows more about model airplanes than most dudes. Look at that. Sweet.
Nice.
Okay, very good. And by the way, if you guys are brand new to this hobby and you're trying to kind of jumpstart your hobby so you can, you know, cover a lot of ground really quick, this is a good place to do it. It doesn't seem like it because the videos are long, but I'm going to tell you something. When it comes time to learn something, learning through the quickest means is not always the best. Doesn't mean that you can't learn a little quicker, but I'm going to tell you this. If you don't have enough or enough thorough training, you're going to have trouble, and you're going to run into trouble quick, okay? We will not leave you high and dry any more than we absolutely have to, but I'm going to tell you this. I cannot put my hands on your transmitter and help you hand to hand in most circumstances, although I've done that before, okay? My suggestion is get involved with the club if you can tolerate the club people. Sometimes the clubs are, you know, a bunch of grumpy old men, and sometimes they're awesome people. It just depends on the club. So if you have a great club experience, share it in the comments below. And also, I want to just remind everybody, when we do one of these beginner airplanes, we want to encourage people to get in the hobby, because at the end of the day, we all want to have more choices. We want to pay a lower price, and we want to enjoy this hobby that we love. And there's a few different ways you can do that. One, you can live in a utopian society that doesn't exist. Or two, you can support other people that get into the hobby, because then there's people that are coming into the hobby as the old people die off in the hobby. Remember, this is not a guaranteed thing. We have to perpetuate the hobby and the interest therein. If you think we can keep this hobby alive without bringing in fresh blood from time to time, you would be grossly mistaken, okay? So remember, get your buddies involved, get them out there, get them off the speedboat and off the golf course, and get them into the airfield, okay? It's very critical that we get people involved. Like I said, there's easier ways to spend pastimes, but this is one of the best. Okay, press that down. Press that down. Then this is going to go in. It says R. I don't know if it gets R down or R up. Looks like R. Which side is R? There's R. That looks pretty darn good. So now I assume these screws are the ones we need from the A bag.
I think so.
I'm just going to go with that's probably right. Okay, so now I'm going to take the screwdriver and we're going to screw this in. Now there's also a little bit more plastic that needs to cover up the back portion that would normally receive the floats. And there's two trains of thought. I many times will install stuff like that because I don't want to search for it. But in this application, I'm probably going to leave that off. And here's why. Because I have a bag right here that I can just slip that into, and then it's ready to rock and roll when I get floats, okay? Also, I have this bag of an extra wheel collar in case we have one fly off. So I'll put it over here by the B bag, okay? So these two bags are extras, and I know they're extras, but I'm gonna just slip them in there in case we need them, okay? Oh, there's gonna be one more extra here.
Yeah, I think so.
Dang it. Okay, so this one must be the L. Yeah, see how it says? It says L, but it's kind of hard to tell. Here, now it's upright. Is it focusing?
Nope, there, yep.
So L is gonna go in here, and my suggestion is whichever direction makes it look correct, but just make sure your gear is pressed into that slot all the way. Because if it's not, it won't press down and it won't look flat, okay? So then go ahead and torque this down, get that screw in, and that's gonna hold for you landing gear, okay? And at the end of the day, folks, flying RC is an extremely rewarding experience. It's very fun, it's very satisfying. And if you wanted to do it from a kid, and now you're an adult and you finally have the means to do it or the time to do it or whatever, you finally move to an area where you've got a good place to fly, then take advantage of the opportunity because you're not guaranteed tomorrow, okay? My suggestion is follow the links in the video description below, help support Brian Phillips RC when you do buy, and then other ways to support us that are super easy as well if you just know you're not gonna get one of these. Was this in the A bag?
Yes.
Okay. You can help support us on a monthly basis through Patreon or YouTube membership if you want to be a member of Brian Phillips RC. And super thanks if you have a one-time donation or PayPal if you don't want to be in those groups. And all those things are super appreciated. But at the end of the day, the best thing you can do is just watch the videos, like them, click the bell when you do subscribe so you can be notified of new content. There's always new content coming on Brian Phillips RC. We're doing it several times a week, and that's just what we do, okay? Now, oh shoot, I just cut that warning label off.
Oh, I can file that for you.
That would be great, that'd be great. All right, so we're gonna pause, clean up for just a second. All right, so we have this piece of hook and loop or Velcro or whatever it is, and we have a battery that's now charged. Now this charger tells us we put 1251 milliamp hours into the pack. This is a 2200 milliamp hour pack. So that means we put in a certain percentage of the overall capacity of this pack. If you fly a plane and you put more than 2200 in this, that means you were working hard at it, in case you were wondering. All right, so now one of the ways that you can make life easy is if you know for sure you're going to fly this battery all the time in this plane, you can take this Velcro and you can stick it on here wherever you think it's gonna hit. But my suggestion is just use the Velcro strap like this, okay? And you're probably thinking, but Brian, you're putting the battery in right now? Yeah, I am. Because I wanna show some more stuff. Now this bind plug, I'm just gonna pull that down so I can get to it. And yes, I'm gonna move my hands in mere moments. Camera crew's desperately trying to get a shot. Okay. You can slide this through, and sometimes it works and other times it doesn't. This one is glued, so it won't work. So I'm just gonna fold it over the top like this and just hug it, okay? So then I take that extra and it doesn't stick, so I have to double it back and stick it like that. Okay, there it is. So now it's kind of wrapped around, and that will help to suspend the battery, but it's not going to hold it in position. Go to a different angle, please. This Velcro would hold the battery without that strap, okay? So that's why many times beginners like to use the Velcro. Normally, we don't have batteries loaded on the underside of an aircraft, and so we will use what's called shelf liner, and it will prevent it from slipping and sliding. You can still technically do that on this model. I'm gonna show you how to do it. We buy this stuff, 10, 12 bucks, and you will run it for years. Or you can just go to your wife's drawer when she's not looking and quickly snap a little corner off, okay? So I'm just gonna show you exactly how I do this crap. I stick it down like that. I take the scissors, I cut it. I take the scissors and I cut it again. This is just like shelf liner underneath your silverware drawer that stops the silverware from slipping and sliding, okay? Now, why is this stuff so nice and why is it definitely worth having? Because as you can see, that battery would slip and slide pretty easy. I'm gonna use the provided Velcro piece and I'm gonna just stick it right here on the bigger piece in the center, okay? And now that's gonna give it some thickness. It's gonna make it easier to load the battery, but then it's also going to hold it in position with minimal effort. I can put a little bit of pressure on that. Now look at this. It's not moving. See how it's not moving? That's good because we can get the center of gravity worked out by moving that forward or backward, okay? So I'm just gonna leave this up plugged for now, and I'm just gonna leave that fairly loose. Now also, when you're a beginner, make sure that you're taking advantage of every opportunity to keep your battery from popping out. Yes, they do occasionally pop out when you do crazy stuff, okay? So now that's sitting there, it's ready to rock and roll for the wing, and I can put away my shelf liner. Sometimes you guys, if you haven't seen shelf liner like what we use, a lot of times it looks like this. It's got that empty, you know, like gaps and everything. We didn't like that as much as this solid stuff. It just happens to work a little better for our application. It works fine for shelf liner, but this stuff works better for what we're doing with it. And so we just went to that. I think we got that at like Menards or something like that.
Yes, we did.
If you don't have Menards in your local area or Walmart, then you can go to Brian Phillips RC and you can follow the links there and help support us. One of the easy ways to support us, because you don't have to do anything special, you're already gonna be doing it, okay? Now, we have this mysterious bag of screws that we haven't used yet, and I have a sneaky suspicion it has something to do with the wing.
Maybe so.
Now, a couple things, just two ideas. If you need to bind your transmitter, so like for instance, if you went through the process of setting up a new Acro model in your Airware file, on an NX10 or an NX8 or an NX7E or whatever it happens to be, iX20, then you would want to maybe leave that wing off so that you can get to the bind button, or you can get to the bind plug, which is underneath and dropped in to the battery bay right there, okay? But in our application, we're going to be just as easy. You could also bind it right here. We don't need to bind this. So we're just gonna go ahead and build away. Now, normally you would need to bind a plane, so just be cognizant of the fact that you may need to drop a wire if it has, in shipping, popped up and around up by the receiver or flight controller. So keep that in mind. Now, we have this wing assembled, but we have to land these cables, okay? So there's a right and there's a left, okay? Yes, it does matter because they use differential on this plane. Okay, so left and right. Probably gonna need some help on this one.
Okay.
Okay, so why don't you just hold right there and just hold it up so it doesn't damage anything. Okay, so this one happens to be right. So the brown is lined up with the brown. Okay, so the brown is toward my right, down just a little bit. So now it's plugged in, you see the brown is lined up with the brown. And then the orange is lined up with the orange and the red is in the middle. So that's 12, that's your voltage, not 12 volts. I don't know why I said 12. Okay, brown is toward my belly this time, and this one's the left aileron. So I can rotate that. Make sure you get a positive seat. Okay, so you have brown to brown and orange to orange. Now, if you ever get one of these and it's got red, black, and white, the white would be equivalent to the orange, and sometimes they're yellow. Let go. Thank you. And then the red will be red in the middle, and the black is equivalent to the brown. Okay, so just kind of set that into the opening. Make sure that your wing struts drop down. And then if you look with me, we've also got these flap linkages that need to be pressed in if they're kind of popping out. So now that we have that dropped in, we can look through the C bag. And the C bag is going to give us basically all these screw options. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, now why do we have 3 extras?
Because we need to do, there's gonna be 2.
Oh yeah, that's right.
On each, and then so you should have
and
one.
And then the
over.
rest is extra.
Yep.
Okay, so look, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so now I can take the screwdriver and I can start tightening these. So basically, when you run these screws in, one trick is watch for puckering in the foam. Yep, I can tell we're getting down there. And I'm gonna go up one size and see if that helps to this 5mm screwdriver, because I'm just not getting good purchase. Yeah, it's way better. Oh yeah, way better. So far, pretty happy with the build. It's gone smooth. It's a lot of steps for a beginner plane. But I gotta say, this is a nice looking plane. Obviously, Cleetus McFarland's plane is beautiful. And someday I hope to be able to have a carbon cub. Okay, so that's feeling pretty bottomed out, so I'm gonna let that be. And then I'm actually just gonna pick up the plane for these two. I'm gonna step back. Just a lot easier to do it this way. Now, we didn't even use our plane stand, but we have a plane stand from Robart that works really nice to hold these planes as we're building them. But we kind of wanted to demonstrate that you don't need it. It's just a convenience item, but it's made of foam and it's like a $25 thing. So I would highly recommend as you get into this that you buy a plane stand, because when you cut through one of your wife's blankets, she'll never let you hear the end of it.
That one.
That was a P51.
Yep. I think of it every time I use my blanket.
Because you can put your toes
every
through
day.
Okay, so now we have those 4 screws, and you can see how it's seated nicely here and here. It's nice and even. Okay, very good. So now we'll flip this over, and we need to do this last portion, which is going to be using these small screws. And I might need to go back to a smaller screwdriver. Yep, I do. Okay, so we'll go back to this 4mm. Now these ones don't have as much play on them in terms of the amount of slop in and down the length here, okay? So we're gonna torque those down, and then we're gonna actually lift the wing so we can force that wing into a splayed up position or a dihedral, okay? So there should be just a hair of dihedral. And then this is actually a functional component on the plane. It's not just for looks. Did I do that right? Yes, I did, okay? So now that we have that wing, I wanna see how it looks. See, now that pulled out. Now watch what I do when I let go. Watch the wings. They'll drop just a hair, but they didn't, so that's good. So now I'm gonna very gently not put pressure on them. I'm gonna turn this sideways. I'm just gonna torque this right where they are. Okay, you see where it is? It's got about a, I know where it is now, but it's gonna wanna slip. See, once you put weight on them, it's gonna wanna slip. So I'm just putting it back to where it was and torquing it down. Putting it back to where it was and torquing it down. Then I'm gonna come over to the other side and I'm gonna mimic that so that we don't have weird positions. You see what I did there? Just grab the wing, adjust that just a tiny, teensy tiny bit. Torque that down. And then this one's way out there, so I'm gonna pull that back a little bit. Now I can support under there with my fingers, it'll help. Okay, so now that's torqued down. All right, guys, so the build is almost done. And you're probably thinking, almost, it looks pretty built to me. Well, you might be thinking that, but there's a few more steps left, and that's what we're gonna do next. Obviously, now that we have all these things in, we still have to work on all of our clevises on the elevator and rudder, but in order to do that, we need to turn on the radio system and let the servo center, unless you wanna hook up a servo tester, which is considerably more work, okay? So at this point, we're gonna go ahead and just put these back here, and we're gonna grab the transmitter, and we're gonna flip this baby. Oh yeah, look at that. Hell yeah, Cleetus McFarland here. Except it's not Cleetus McFarland, it's Brian Phillips. So Brian Phillips RC, to be specific. We love RC, we love bringing real value to real people that are really trying to learn to fly, okay? So let's do it. Turn on the transmitter, flip your plane over. Make sure that your throttle cut is on. Throttle cut should be here, and this should be down. I'm gonna leave this bind plug right there so we can find it easily.
Okay.
Camera crew's gonna point the camera so she can see. We're gonna open this and make sure that Velcro's out of the doorway. It was in the doorway. We're gonna plug this in and we're gonna make sure the family jewels are not in the prop.
Okay.
Okay, so right there, plug it in. Then we're gonna close that. Listen for beeping, hold this in such a way that if something went horribly wrong, it wouldn't cut you, but it shouldn't, okay? Now, you'll notice that the transmitter is on, and camera crew is gonna come slightly in front. You're gonna notice a green. I don't trust the plane until I trust it. Okay, now I'm gonna pick this plane up, I'm gonna put it over here, And then I want you guys to see that, but I'm gonna put myself, you're gonna be over there.
Okay.
I'm gonna go elevator up, elevator down. Oh, it's not hooked up. Roll left, roll right, yaw left, yaw right. So now that I know that they're moving, I can tell we're moving very little, okay? Very little means I'm probably unsafe. Okay, there you go. You see the light condition? Mm-hmm. That must be beginner mode, that's intermediate, and that's advanced. See how much more the movement is? Now also, there's high and low rates. So that's high rates, that's low rates. You can tell by holding the stick down and over. And when you move it so that it's up, that's high rates on switch F and low rates on the bottom of switch F. So now I'm in high rates and I'm in expert mode. So that means it won't be trying to correct when I flip this over to set those clevises. Now the other thing I'm gonna do right now is while I have control of the plane and my hand is out of the danger zone of the prop, I'm gonna increase the throttle and you'll notice nothing happened. That's because I have throttle cut on. Now throttle cut is off, hands in a safe spot. Very good. Now throttle cut's back on. That sounds a lot better than I remember. They must have changed something there.
Okay.
So maybe they have a new power system, but it looks really nice, okay? So, we still have to hook up the elevator, okay, and the rudder. So now that we know that we're neutral on our controls, if I were in beginner, watch what happens. Oh, it's trying to auto level the plane. Don't want that because it would also be moving the elevator. Watch. See? Well, the elevator's over here, okay? You can see it's trying to move the elevator. Mm-hmm. So we want to be in advanced mode, so the red light's on. Now we can hook up the elevator. I'm just gonna go out on a limb and hook it up to the, which one do they recommend? They're gonna recommend probably the outside one.
I don't know, we'll have to go a couple pages past.
Okay, so just go into this page. This, I just wanna make sure we set it up so that it's similar to what? Do they tell us?
Go one more page. They usually do.
Yeah, that's the thing you guys can buy if you decide you want to do that, or you can just use the plug.
Good job.
I didn't get it though. Ah! So, where is it? Does it even tell us? Come on, mosquito. Got him. Did I get him?
Yes.
Thank you. Get out of here, Skeeter. Thanks for filming all that, camera crew.
Yes.
Okay, so there's also the optional landing assist sensor, the LAS, which is right here. They talk about it. And basically what's gonna happen is this thing pops out, which is a plug. It looks down at the ground and makes it a little easier to land. Don't get it. If you want to buy it from the links in the video description below. The GPS goes in here. Again, optional GPS module. I wouldn't recommend it. It makes it very complicated to start the process. If you want to do it, go for it. But just remember, you're going to be reading through about 3 pages just to start. Okay? My suggestion is don't do that. Okay? It is not easy to set up. There we go. Finally, on page 30. Okay, so it looks like what we want for the outside. Okay, I could have told you that. That was my guess. Okay, so all we were trying to do was figure this out. So this needs to be there. Can you make sure you're not blocking the light, please? Okay, so this needs to go here. So in order to do that, I'll slide this rubber back, that fuel hose. And it looks like we are actually pretty darn close to centered. We are dang close to centered. That's awesome. Okay, so if it's not centered, you need to make it centered by screwing this in or out on that threaded shaft and then slide this back and that'll keep it from popping off. Same thing with the rudder. Let's look at that. So slide this plastic or rubber hose back and then you can tell that's definitely kicked over to the side a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, show the people from above. Okay, so I need to bring this in. So I'm gonna just grab this here and just turn it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's probably more than we need. And on the outside hole, nope, that was about perfect actually. So now I noticed one other thing too that's gonna be of difficulty, okay? First of all, make sure that's centered so that when you slide this back, make sure that that pin, come down lower, like this. Make sure that that pin makes it all the way through, okay? So it meshes up with this, otherwise that'll be a problem. The other thing is this landing gear looks like it's out of angle from the actual rudder just a little bit. So I'm just gonna bend that just a hair, like that, square it up. The noise you're hearing is inactivity. That'll stop. Just give it some activity. Okay, so we did not need to bind, which is good. So the bind plug will also go into this bag for when we're ready to do binding later, or we have about 400 of them. So at the end of the day, we've gone through all the setup necessary to actually make this plane fly. But we need to check surfaces and we need to check center of gravity, okay? Because center of gravity is where the plane balances, okay? And that's gonna make the elevator either more touchy or less touchy, as well as the other flight characteristics. Basically, if it's nose heavy, it flies kind of heavy on the elevator, like you gotta give it a lot to do anything. And if it's tail heavy, it's gonna be extremely touchy and pitchy, okay? So but if it's centered on the center of gravity, it should be pretty even. Okay, so elevator up, okay, so elevator up, elevator down, roll left. So this one goes up, which pushes the wing down. This one goes down, which pulls the wing up. And that is kind of like a simplified version. Yaw left and yaw right. You'll notice the steerable tail wheel is attached to the rudder, so it's tested both at the same time. So now, in beginner mode, okay, which is a green light, you're gonna notice there's a certain amount of movement. And then experienced mode, you're gonna have a lot more. See that? Now also in low rates, you're gonna have a lot less and more in experienced, okay? See how it goes a little bit further. So I wanna be in high rates and I wanna be in experienced when I take off. Throttle cut is on. By default, this tells you how much battery is charged on that inside, okay? So we have tested all the control surfaces. Now, one other thing to test, go to beginner mode, carefully flip the plane upside down. Look at the ailerons. It's trying to find the quickest route to level. Now look at the elevator. See how it's pointed up? It's trying to pull it level. When it gets to this position, that's where it's gonna be. And you see if you're pointed uphill, it's gonna try to level you by doing this. So between the roll and the pitch control, it's gonna automatically level the aircraft if it's in that green beginner mode. And if you're in the intermediate, it's gonna allow you to pitch only to a certain point, and it's gonna have stabilization. That's what you see happening here. See, when I roll the plane this way, that's gonna point down. See? Okay? Now, in advanced mode, it's only gonna resist a little bit. Okay, so watch that. Resisting, resisting, and then it snaps back. Now rudder, it's going that way, it's going this way. Give me the camera. Okay, just from this vantage. Going that way, going that way. Whenever you go a direction, it's gonna resist by going the opposite direction. So the elevator's a little bit hard to see because it's white on white. Okay, so then this, as it rolls, it goes up. As it rolls down, it goes down, okay? Now same thing here, going up and then going down. It's not a huge movement, so it's not super easy to see. So take your hand, lay it on the surface, go up, oh yeah, down. Oh yeah, up, oh yeah, down. If you can't tell on the rudder, rotate it. It's one of the easiest to see. You can tell it's resisting. It's resisting, it's resisting. So those are the surfaces you would test if you really wanted to test them. But admittedly, it comes out of the box working. You don't have to do those tests. But as you advance through the ranks in RC, you're gonna eventually do plug and flies, and we'll walk you through all of those procedures. Now, there's also one other test you can do, and it's called a range test. And I believe they walk you through the range test. We typically don't do range tests, but real quick here. Sorry, we were talking about range tests, but I just wanted to show you the bind and fly setup. So they have an IX guide, a DX guide, and then an NX guide. So we usually work with NX, but we'll do that at some point. And basically, if you want to do, we're going to find that other mode. All right, so here's the range test. It's on page 12. This is the procedure you do if you want to test the range, and it continues up on page 13, okay? So if you need to pause it now, and then if you need to pause it now. Or just go to brianphillipsrc.com. You can find this plane and click on the buy now, or you can just go down to the description below and you can find it that way and you can buy it that way. But basically what a range test is going to do is it's going to degrade the performance of this transmitter by 90%. It's going to be a 10% output. And then you can walk away until you see it stop moving. And then you'll know 10 times that is approximately the range you're going to get with your transmitter. But DSMX, which is what this uses back and forth, is going to tend to be longer than line of sight, is what we say, okay? And it also uses spread spectrum technology, so there's many people can be flying in the same proximity, and each of the planes, knowing that this is belonging to this, will be able to both identify each other and operate within a busy spectrum of other receivers and transmitters or transceivers, okay? So pretty cool technology. It's been around for some time. So it's tested and true, it does work really good. I've been in events where we have hundreds of planes flying together at the same time. It's pretty cool. All right, guys, so that's pretty much it. Here on Brian Phillips RC, we start to finish every aspect of testing, except for throttle. We didn't really do a lot. We got to do the center of gravity still. Yep. That's pretty cool. Throttle cuts on. So center of gravity, we'll test real quick. And the best way to do it is to have the camera crew find it in the manual while I open up a pair of calipers and we can mark the model. Now, you don't have to mark your model if you don't want to screw up the Cleetus McFarland finish. That's totally fine. It's what,
62 to 68.
Okay, that's pretty hyper specific. All right, so being that this is a beginner plane, it seems like that would have been a good thing to just put in. Okay, so 62 to 68. So I'm turning on my calipers, I'm zeroing them in millimeters, 62 to 68. Mm-hmm. All right, so 62 to 68 millimeters. So I'm gonna go back here where I can actually get my hands and I'm gonna make a dent. It's gonna be black. Okay, so I made a pretty big dent. So 62. There's 62 to 68.
Yes.
So here's 68. Okay, and I'm piercing the foam. And unfortunately it is in the black, so I cannot darken the hole with a marker because it happens to be black where I'm doing this. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna just basically now test with the center of gravity. As we have the battery installed in a particular position, we might need to adjust that. So, come here. This is the front hole and the back hole. I'm on the back hole. Where did I put this one?
Second star in.
Yep, there we go. So front hole and back hole. Okay, so on the back hole, it is balanced. On the front hole, it's a little bit tail heavy. So what that means is I want to move this battery, especially if I'm a beginner, a little bit forward. Now remember, we put that shelf liner in there so we can do this real easy. I just have to kind of just push it forward. I'm gonna go right to about a ½ inch forward. Now, I'm gonna do the same exact test again. I'm gonna put my finger here. I'm gonna put my finger there. Front hole, it's slightly tail heavy. Back hole, slightly nose heavy, and barely, okay? So very good position. So if you buy the recommended 2200 3S pack, that's where it goes. And that'll get you right in the center of range. So now if you use a bigger battery, which you can, you're just gonna have to be mindful that you're gonna have to balance it more or less in this similar position to get started. And then you can put your fingers on those 2 points and see if it leans forward. That'd be nose heavy or tail heavy, okay? And you want it to be more nose heavy than tail heavy as a beginner. But you don't want it falling off your fingers nose heavy. It's gonna make it hard to fly, okay? All All right, so we answered hopefully all your questions here to get you started. There's a pretty thick manual. If you want to look at the full manual and take some time to read it all by yourself, that's fine. You can do that. Follow the links like you're going to buy this and scroll down. You'll see the information right there for specs and manuals, as well as spare parts and upgraded parts like the landing assist sensor LAS, which I don't recommend, and the GPS, which I also don't recommend. Now, if you want to do it, but just remember, I have only used the GPS one time and I thought it was the most confusing thing ever. I have never used the landing aid sensor. I'm sure it'd be fun for many of you, but I can just tell you this plug likes to pop out. So if you're anything like me and you know it's going to pop out, you can just take this out. Or if you like having the plug in there because you don't want to see it like uglified and missing, my suggestion is to tape it right now. If you ever decide to add the landing assist sensor, then you can actually just cut the tape, which is what we're going to do right now, because I don't want to deal with that thing popping out on maiden flights. And by the way, a maiden flight, of course, being the first flight, we have on a separate video in most cases. So I'm just going to cut that so I have a nice square edge. And I'm just going to stick this down. Now, keep in mind, this will probably take the paint off if you were to take it off. So just use tape sparingly and in the right applications. When you're taping on this finish, just be prepared to understand it's going to take the tape. The tape is going to take the paint when and if you would pull it off. So just when you stick this down, stick it down like you mean it and don't dink around. Because if you dink around, it's not going to work. Okay? So now if that gets popped, I don't have to worry about that popping out. I can stick my finger in here and press that tight into the tape. It did not take the paint off. I didn't expect that to pop up like that. Okay? So there you go. And that is super obnoxious, but I woke it up. Okay? Camera crew, garbage. Thanks. So there you have it. So that'll keep that from popping out. And basically, I don't think we left any stone unturned on this. If we did leave you guys high and dry on an especially important detail to you, leave it in the comments below. We'll try our best to help accommodate how we can, but just keep in mind we get tens of thousands of comments and we do not always make it to every comment. We used to do that when we were a little bit smaller channel and it was super fun to be able to interact with the audience, but it's just impossible for us to keep up with 100% of the comments, even though we do genuinely enjoy and appreciate our interactions with you, our wonderful audience on YouTube. If you have other questions, keep in mind, tons of people in this RC community are here for the same thing. And if you ask it, there's a good chance somebody is going to answer, even if it isn't us. So do that exactly. And I got to say, looks really good. I love the carbon cub. It's one of my favorite planes. I love that this has softer tires. I love that the look and feel of the plane is really well done, okay? I feel like the motor and the prop sound and feel really balanced, which is nice. I don't remember that in the past, but it's admittedly been a long time. That seems a lot smoother than what I remember on the original, okay? So I'm hoping that it is as good as I believe it's going to be. And yes, in our experience, we've had really good luck with this particular plane. So I think you will too. It is truly a beginner plane, guys. If you want beginner planes and you buy the wrong plane, your experience will be somewhere between terrible and horrific unless you're extremely lucky or bringing previous skill to the table, like somebody returning from a previous experience flying. Or you play a lot of video games and happens to be flying type games, because a lot of times kids that play a lot of flying games really take to this stuff quickly. Okay? Or if you've flown drones around your house or little helis like these, you will have some of the basic skill set for the muscle memory. But remember, you can't stop a plane midair like you can a drone or a helicopter. You got to have airspace, you have to look ahead of your plane, and you have to have a broad, wide-ranging opened area for best results. I started in parking lots and things like that, but nowadays it's sort of generally frowned upon. Now, there's one other feature that you may want to be investing in. It's kind of your decision if you decide to do this, but I'm just going to bring it up. Remote ID is an option. Spectrum has an offering called Sky. There's also other offerings like this, which is called Ruco. It's very cheap. Sky is not as cheap. That has some GPS features that will work through telemetry back to your transmitter for searching for your plane and things like that. But really, it is greater than 250 grams. And so as a result, the current requirements are that you would have to have a remote ID if you're not flying inside of a FRIA. A FRIA is an FAA recognized identification area, which is stupid because it's an acronym inside of another acronym, and it says it backward because you don't need to identify yourself to other aircraft in that area. Again, your government dollars at work. Couldn't we have doged that thing? Anyway, if your predisposition is to not obey the rule, that's fine. You're not going to hurt my feelings. But just remember, there are a few rules out there that it might be kind of nice to have one of those $30 tools in your tool bag if you decide you want to fly at your local park, okay? You're probably not going to piss anybody off, but that's the best thing you can do is just not piss people off. If they're all freaking out because there's an airplane, you're probably in the wrong spot. If you are flying in a spot, and we always found this to be true when we flew in neighborhoods, we flew in parks, we flew all over the place. And we always ended up getting blessing from somebody to do it. The kids loved it, the parents loved it. We were always really good with the kids. It always drew a crowd. It was really fun, really positive experience. But nowadays, with some of these new rules, it's a little bit more ambiguous. You got to be a little bit careful. And so my suggestion is just have one of those remote IDs, follow the rules if you want to totally have a clean slate, or fly at a club, which would be known as a FRIA. Okay, and the FRIA status allows you to fly without the remote ID if flown for recreational purposes. So it should be no problem then. That's between you and God, though. I don't care what you do. We are not endorsing the program. We think it's ridiculous, but it is what it is. So does it save anybody? No, it doesn't. Does it stop bad actors? No, it doesn't. Does it keep anybody safe? Not really at all. It's just a giant waste of time and money. But it is what it is. What we do love is this plane, and we love getting people flying. So we want to lower the bar just as low as possible so that it's easy to step into this hobby and get addicted. So, get interested. Because at the end of the day, I love this hobby. I've been doing it for 10 years with my wife, but I've been into RC my whole life, okay? So like popped out of mom, started RC. But all joking aside, it is the most immersive, the most fun, the most gratifying, and the most difficult RC experience I've had flying fixed wing and helicopters. Helicopters a little bit harder for me. But at the end of the day, flying aircraft in general is the most immersive that we have done. I do boats, I do cars, I do trucks, I do crawlers. I do bashers and smashers. We did trains. Both of us were nerds with trains as kids. And we've done a lot of other stuff too. I've had like submarines, all sorts of crap. Big boats, small boats, fast boats, all sorts of stuff, guys. But the most immersive and rewarding and amazing is flying airplanes, in my opinion. Fixed wing, scale airplanes is where it's at, in my opinion. If that's not what it's for you, maybe it's 3D for you. Maybe it's airliners for you. And I love airliners too. I love general aviation. I love warbirds. I love them all. If they look realistic and they fly realistic and they do what they say, I'm going to always endorse that particular product. But we'll show stuff that I'm not crazy about too, because we know there's a very wide spectrum of interest in this hobby, and we're going to not neglect anybody on purpose just because it's not my thing. So hopefully we answered all your questions. We'll get you up to speed. And here on Brian Phillips RC, we're here to stay. We're going to keep you in the air. We're going to get you out of the chair into the air by telling the full truth, nothing but the truth, so help us God. And if you haven't already smashed the like button, do that. Helps with the algorithm. We do long format content here, and we do some shorts as highlight reels for people that are interested in what we're doing. It's kind of like a commercial to the channel. But at the end of the day, we primarily focus on long format, where we teach people through demonstrative videos. Okay, so if you like this type of content, even though it is longer than you want, click the gear, go down to 2 times. You can watch it twice as fast, or if you're having trouble following along, click the gear and go to half speed. The audio will sound hilarious, and you can probably learn it a little bit easier. Don't be afraid to take advantage of those tools. Also, when these lights run down, remember you need to charge your battery. 100% is all 4 lights on. This will start flashing. You're somewhere between 100 and 75. When that one's on full, you're at 75. When that one starts flashing, you're somewhere between 75 and 50. When that one's on, you're at 50, and so on and so forth until you get down to the bottom. When that last one's flashing, you better land. There's also a low voltage protection on this that's gonna pulse the motor as you're flying, and it'll freak you out. So the first time you hit it, just remember, get to a landing area, land. Should be pretty easy to land this plane. We'll show it all in our maiden flight. So if you guys are thinking all that and no flight, trust me, you're just watching the wrong video. We publish our flights at the same time as our Unbox build radio setup, unless we had some sort of a weird problem like we did on that one recently, and it just took a long time for us to upload it, okay? So in that case, just watch the maiden flight, learn what you need to learn, see if you like the plane, and if you do, then investigate further in the Unbox build radio setup. And if this beginner airplane is not for you, check out our other amazing beginner plane offerings at brianphillipsrc.com, which can easily be navigated through bprc.me. That's our short link to brianphillipsrc.com. That's our website and domain there. We also have supplies there, and we will make it very easy for you guys to find and compare and contrast these different airplanes. All right? Hopefully no stone's been left unturned, and we appreciate you being here with us on Brian Phillips RC. Happy flying. Come back for more.